Hi guys, Kim here. Welcome to Backyard Blooms. In today's video, you are going to come and garden with me. I have an episode 1 and an episode 2 coming. Last week I videoed all of me doing my gardening tasks in the garden, so come garden with me. And then this week I also videoed quite a bit of different stuff that I didn't do last week, so come on and garden with me. Once a week I try to fertilize with this water-soluble fertilizer, so I put 2 scoops into a 2-gallon watering container, and then I fill it up with water and try to feed my annuals at least once a week. So here is my vermillionaire that I'm watering along with all the super bells that I have in this container. Everything that I have in here are heavy feeders and love this extra food that I'm giving them. I have 3 of these containers in my garden. This is the bubblegum Super Petunia Vista. This is one plant. They are very, very heavy feeders, so I tried to make sure I give them lots of plant food each week as well. This is the other container that I have. I had the vermillionaire. Loving all of those coneflowers that I have in my garden. I also try to inspect for any kind of budworms that I have onto my super bells. For some reason, they're not flowering as well. And if I do find budworms, then I use BT to kill the caterpillars, and then they'll start flowering out. I do need to give these a quick trim sometime this summer as well. That might be a next week's thing. These gorgeous coneflowers here are doing really well. I have several of these bubblegum super vistas in this cottage garden right here. You can see that the deer loved this vermillionaire as well. For some reason, they're just loving my garden. I guess I can't blame them. So these super bells are doing really well. And I'm pointing out right here where you could see the deer damage, where they just gave me a good pruning job. So I need to come back and spray this with some kind of deer resistant. Even though these containers are on drip, I still like to give a little bit of extra water each day, especially when it's in the high 90s like we've been here in Charlotte, North Carolina, Zone 8. This is the container that I did at the very beginning with 3 different purple flowers. I have the Super Bina and a Super Bells and a Super Tunia in this container. Make sure you watch that video earlier in the season in early May that I put out. I got like 20,000 views on that video. Very proud of that video. It's always nice to really have a water feature, and then I always inspect my roses and try to deadhead my roses at least once a week so it doesn't get away from me. I like the cleaner look, and then it also gives me better blooms throughout the year too. It promotes reblooming throughout the year. This one is Thomas Graham, and you can see I have a cluster here, and I take it back to 5 set of leaves, and I'll pick those blooms up at the end of the day after videoing this video. This is the video that I did on all the coleus. This is ridiculous. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I just love the ridiculous up against this peachy yellow color of the Thomas Graham rose. It looks really, really good together. I feel like everybody needs to have some kind of container with coleus, either in a container or in the ground. I've had both, and they've done really well. So my next job that I'm going to do is make sure I get all these spent blooms off the daylilies, and they are called daylilies because each bloom will last just once a day. I like to do this because it gives it a cleaner look. It doesn't really, I'm not going to say promote any more blooms because the blooms are there. You can see I have lots of more buds, but just getting the blooms out of the garden the spent blooms out of the garden, I feel like gives a garden a cleaner look. Look how gorgeous this daylily is here with this frilly yellow and pink. Just absolutely gorgeous. I have the Gara right here as well. That's right next to this plant. I feel like they make a very, very good pairing. You can see that I have my Felco pruners right there. If you have not invested in a good pair of pruners, these Felco pruners are the best. They have lasted me for over 3 years. They're great. They have a good spring action. This is something that I use every single day in my garden. You can see that link in my description under more. This is my pop-up bag that I put all my clippings in. So this is my hanging basket. Everything in here needs food as well. These are the double up impatiens. They take a little bit of shade, so I have this in a little bit of a shady area, not full sun. Super bells are looking awesome as well. And my husband made this sturdy little shepherd's hook for me. You can also remove all the spent foliage at the very end of your daylilies like I have right here. That also gives it a cleaner look. Daylilies and some of the grasses, you may have this type of look as well. Most of the time it just pulls out really easy. You don't even have to give it a big tug, and just clean the dead up and then dispose into your little pop-up bag. I love this pop-up bag. It holds a lot of spent blooms or foliage that I need to dispose of. And this is my gorgeous pathway going into the rose garden right here. I love that it gives you an extra room right there. I love the look of the pavers. And these are 2 more hanging baskets that I have flanking on the other side, and they're doing quite well. So I'm going to give this some extra food as well with the water-soluble container that I have here, the water-soluble fertilizer from Proven Winners. Proven Winners has just done a really good job formulating what really works well with their plants, and it works, so I'm not going to change it. And then here I'm just removing some of the grass that has come up through those pavers right there. This is the Bermuda grass, and you can see those rhizomes just kind of build up into the flower beds there. So they're really easy to pull up. No problem there. You can see this little lizard right here. I have lots of little friends in the garden that I love to look at. And he's just basking in the sun there. This is a butterfly bush that is lilac in color. I just bought this at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think it was Home Depot years ago. I don't even know what brand it is, but I love the big blooms on this. And then I like to deadhead all my spent blooms off of my butterfly bushes. It's not something that you have to do, but I like the clean look. And then, like I said, removing spent blooms will promote new growth as well. And I'm using my Felco pruners to do that as well. You can see there's some new buds coming out. I don't really have to do this every week. I'm going to say that I probably spend maybe every 3rd week trying to remove the spent blooms on these butterfly bushes. The sedum's doing really well. And then here I'm removing some of the spent blooms off this Daisy May. For the first year ever, I can see some new blooms come off. They state that especially the newer variety will rebloom for me, but I have never had reblooms. But you can see these small little buds there that are reblooming. This plant is gorgeous when it's in full bloom. And then here, my husband asked me if I can take care of these dahlias that are laying on the grass right there. So I do have some plant stakes that I had from my hydrangea garden, where for the first couple of years I needed to stake my hydrangeas, but these are the plant stakes that I have. And I did find these on Amazon, and I'll have that link in the description as well. But that's all that I'm doing, is just pulling them up. And the stakes have little holes that will link together, so I can actually link these 3 stakes together, and it holds this plant up really nicely. It works for anything that you need staking. I do really like them, and I'm glad that I purchased them, and I've been able to repurpose them in the garden after you're finished for whatever. Like my hydrangeas don't need to be restaked now because they're finally sturdy enough after 4 years, but these dahlias definitely needed to be staked. I am, like I said, Zone 8, Charlotte, North Carolina, so I have not had to dig these dahlias up in the wintertime. They wintered over well for me, and I believe that people even in Zone 7 and up can leave them in the ground as well. And if you're worried that dahlias won't come back for you, you can just put a big pile of mulch on them, and that will protect them through the winter. I do remove all my spent blooms from my dahlias as well. That also promotes more blooming as well. I use these dahlias for cut flowers. Let me just bring you a little closer to the plant stakes. And you can see where I have it looped in there. I did not buy these from Amazon, even though that I just recently saw them on Amazon. Like I said, that link will be in my description. I did get these from GARDNER Supply, and that's another online company that I love to get products from as well. I love this dahlia. It has different types of colors on one plant. You can get hot pink to an orangey to yellows all on one bloom. I just think they're so pretty. And you can tell on the underneath when the petals start to die off that's when they need to go ahead and be deadheaded. And you want to make sure that you don't pick those when you're putting them in a cut flower container or a bouquet. So my husband always mows at least once a week. For us, we love to have our grass looking really great. This is the Lubana Skylar elevated planter box that I had a video on, and I'm just moving it out of the way so Paul can mow underneath that as well. I have several different videos on our grass here and there, telling you what type of products that we put on our grass to get it nice and green. I do have a sprinkler on this, at least I believe I have it 20 minutes each day. So Paul's just removing any kind of weeds that are right there. This is Bermuda grass. It is a warm-weathered grass, or a warm weather grass, I should say. And you can see how my husband mows the grass there. He just overlaps each time as he goes back and forth. He does always bag and get all the clippings. You can see that he's got a bag right there as well. These are the begonias that I had in my video of the Skylar, and I'm just giving them water daily because they're not on any kind of drip. And this is a sun impatient right here. You can see that it's quite wilted, but if you just give it some water each day, it will just perk back up the next morning. And this is the Skylar elevated planter box. The black potato vine looks lovely in there. And I love how it accents this window right here with the white trim, with the white planter box. And I can see this planter box inside as well, so I get to enjoy this planter box from inside also. This lemon coral sedum with the potato vine and these red-winged begonias. I'm also giving this some plant food as well with the continuous release from Proven Winners. That container lasts me a good bit. So here I'm going to add the continuous release fertilizer in my aqua pot as well. So you can actually put some of the fertilizer in the little reservoir, the little black hole where you fill your water up. You can actually put some fertilizer in that as well, so it can soak up from the bottom up. And then I always fill this container at least once a week. So I feel like lately, when the weather's been in the 90s and higher 100s, that I might have to fill this container up at least twice. I just kind of keep a look on what the flowers are looking like, and if they're wilting, then I'll go ahead and, of course, give it some extra water. I have a Queen Tut that's brand new this year in this container, and I do need to inspect this container a little bit better. I feel like I need to take all these plants out. Usually when you fill the reservoir in this aqua pot, there's a drainage hole that will drain out to prevent overwatering. However, for some reason it must be stopped up or whatever, but I've had several different plants die in this container this year, so I need to, bless you, Sasha, that was Sasha sneezing. I need to probably remove all of these and replant them as well, and maybe put some more soil in there. So I'm not sure what's going on with this container, but it's been struggling, so I've been adding some extra water on top. But this Queen Tut looks really good in this container, and I did have the Over Easy Super Bells, and they did not make it, and then I put some of the white Mini Vista petunias in there. It's my neighbor Al over there. He's out mowing his grass as well. Just trying to show you how thick and gorgeous this green grass is. We do put the PGF Complete on it every single week, along with some kind of soil amendment. And then I'll always look at my water feature here and make sure it's good and clean. I have to clean this at least maybe once a week to every 2 weeks, I'm going to say. Here I'm just looking at my roses, and you can see these black spot on the roses, which is a type of fungus. I have been spraying this rose with copper fungicide, and I've also put the Bio Advanced 3-in-1 care on that, but for some reason we just had so much rain and so much humidity this year that I've just had battled it from, I'm going to say, the beginning of June on. But I've read that it's beneficial to remove these leaves that have black spot on it. That way it will prevent it from happening more. So here I'm trying to just cut off these leaves, and of course I'm picking up the leaves as well, because I don't want these leaves that have black spot laying at the base of my rose and giving it any type of fungus as well. These roses are very good to resistant to black spot and fungal, but like I said, this year I've just battled it more. We've had a lot of rain at the beginning of the season. This is my gorgeous Limelight Standard hydrangea tree. And then here I'm showing you where the deer have enjoyed these limelights this year. I believe last year I didn't have as much damage from the deer as I have this year, but they do like that new foliage, and you can see these gorgeous blooms right here. So luckily I've got at least 12 plants in this garden of my hydrangea garden. These are the little lime hydrangeas. These little limes get about 5 to 6 feet tall. And then here I have the geraniums. There's a hardy geranium called Roxanne at the very bottom of the base there. So I'm going to come back and spray with some kind of deer resistant at least once a week. This is the spent blooms on the Salvia, so I'm going to remove the spent blooms to encourage some new growth by this fall. So I just take those all the way back, as you can see as I did here. Look how pretty those Roxanne hardy geraniums are as well. Right next to them, I love that purple violet color that they give off. And this is my little gem magnolia, and it does shed leaves throughout the year and some of the old blooms as well. That is a fungus with a mushroom there, just showing you that. So that means my ground is pretty fertile right there. Don't have much blooms on this one because for some reason the deer really liked that one and pretty much enjoyed that whole entire plant. You can see Paul's taken off the container there that he has already bagged, and he just puts it into a big garbage bag and we dispose of that. You can put this in one of those big brown bags as well. We have several of the solar lights that we like to light up our gardens at nighttime. And this one lights up our whole entire rose garden here. These are the Sprinter boxwoods that are looking gorgeous. And this blue is an annual. You can see that awesome little bumblebee in there. This blue flower I got at Lowe's. And this one is called the blue lobelia, Lobelia. So it's been a really good performer, but it does not really like the heat, so it's kind of slacked off for me here in the hot heat. This is the hens and chicks that I did in my living wreath, and I have a video on that, and I'm just showing you how gorgeous all of these colors are that blend really nicely together. They're doing quite nicely in this living wreath. And I displayed it just on my coffee table and then put a candle right here in the middle of it. Looks really nice. So I need to replant that begonia right there in this gorgeous container right here. So I chose one color to accent most of my garden with, and I chose these blues and grays. So I saw this container and thought it would be gorgeous. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I actually have some soil that I had left over, and I just put it into one of these gardens over here. So I'm going to grab some soil, some topsoil, and put it in this container right here so I can replant this gorgeous begonia in that right there. I don't really have a lot of room in my garage, and Paul doesn't really like me to store a lot of bags, so This is some of the topsoil that I have, and it was from Espoma topsoil that I put into the elevated planter box. This begonia here does not like a lot of sun, so it likes some shade, so that's why I have it on my porch that is covered. And I'm just going to fill in the dirt all the way around this. This one does not have drainage holes, so I'm going to have to be careful and not overwater this one as well. It doesn't seem to want a lot of water. And I got this container at a local little gift shop in Davidson, North Carolina. I do ultrasound at one of those places really close to that, so I stop into that store from time to time and find some really cute vines there. So now we're just going to place it back on the porch. And I'm giving it a good water here. I just try not to drown it or soak it, because again, it doesn't have drainage holes. I'm going to just drain some excess water out of it. And this is its new home. Look how pretty. That Pegasus begonia. It's mainly known for foliage only. It will not flower. So this is what I'm using. One of my subscribers told me to use this, and I bought some, and it works fairly well. It says on the directions to spray it once a night for the first 30 days, and then the deer will hopefully find something else that they like to eat. So I'm spraying that with this. It is organic. It has organic egg, garlic, clove, pepper, cinnamon oil, and lemongrass oil in that. So when I'm spraying it, it does smell pretty garlicky, and cinnamon doesn't really smell really awful as the liquid fence is. But I do feel like I find myself alternating between these two. So hopefully the deer won't like the smell and will decide to leave this flower alone. Leave it for the hummingbirds. Every single morning I see the hummingbirds enjoying these flowers right here. And of course they like the new foliage on my roses as well. I heard once that deer do not like roses because of the thorns. Well, they love all this new foliage right here. So if anything, spray all that new foliage that you see right there, that red foliage. That is what they like to eat. Of course, that's where your blooms come from. So if they eat that new foliage off, then they're going to eat your bloom off too. And of course, this is a hydrangea that I've never seen bloom, because from the very beginning they love this plant. They also like my rose of Sharon as well. You can see some of the dahlias there. This is the magenta rose of Sharon, and she is showing off her blooms. Rose of Sharon make great screening plants as well, because they will get about 12 feet tall. They're more upright. This yellow dahlia is going to be gorgeous when it starts to bloom. Love this one as well. Look how gorgeous this dahlia is with these different type of pinks on there. So I have 3 different types of rose of Sharon. I have a magenta and a lilac and a blue chiffon, and then I actually have the pink one as well. I think it's called Sugar Tip. I just planted that one last fall, so it's still quite small. But this deer repellent is I Must Garden, and I bought it on Amazon, and of course you could see that link in my description as well. You just click on the link and it'll take you right to Amazon, and you can order whatever you need and have it shipped right to your house. So these are my David Austin roses called Olivia. And have 2 Olivia, 1 Celebration, and then I have another climbing rose on that 3-way trellis that I have. And I got the 3-way trellis from Garden Supply. And then on my daily routines, I make sure that I look for any kind of weeds. I see a weed right there. So I go ahead and try to pull any weeds as I see on a weekly basis. But of course, I must have missed that one last week because it's quite tall. And this is my pufferfish, and of course I have not seen any blooms on that as well yet because of the deer. This is my sugar tip rose of Sharon, and this one is variegated, so I love the look of the leaves on this as well. And then of course, you can see a little bit of deer damage there too, so that's why I'm spraying that one as well. I have lots of daylilies in this area. These are junipers. Another weed. Just try to get the roots, and I feel like it's just beneficial to pull a weed than to spray it, especially when you have lots of different flowers all the way around your weeds. If they're new weeds, they're very easy to pull up, as you can see. I'm pulling them up with one hand. This is my Mandevilla, growing up my obelisk from Gardner Supply. Mandevillas love the heat, love this gorgeous, it's orange, but I do not remember the name of that. I think it's like a cantaloupe. I think it's something named with cantaloupe, and I bought those bare root at Breck's. More weeds. Do you guys ever feel like you're unsure what is a weed and what is not? So this is a spent stalk from my daylilies. So they pull up pretty easy once they're pretty much spent. So I like to get those stalks out of there as well. I don't feel like this is a chore for me. I feel like this is pretty relaxing to come out and just do this type of stuff in the garden. I'm not one that likes to sit inside, so anything that I could do outside, I love. Gets me out in nature. Feels like I have a purpose. Love those geraniums that popped all the way up to 2 to 3 feet up into these hydrangeas. So that was an extra surprise that I did not expect. So I'm just spraying this with the I Must Garden as well. This is Miss Grace from Unique Stone. Again, you can see right there where, you know. This comes in a concentrate, so I just keep this one bottle. I bought a bottle and a bottle of concentrate, and then I just keep mixing it up and use the same bottle. It does really spray really well. I know some of these little spray bottles don't spray very well, and you're like, oh my gosh, like my finger's killing me, but this one sprays really good. And these are my Nellie Stevens little lollipops that I pruned up. Haven't seen a lot of flowers on these. This one is really close to the edge of the garden. This one is Eustasia Ave. It's a David Austin rose as well. And this is my above raised bed. These are all my zinnias. I actually did not plant a single zinnia this year in this raised bed because all these started to pop up from last year. So I do like to remove the spent blooms from these as well. And of course, I've already told you a million times that it promotes new blooms. And for whatever reason, this big thing is, this big tree, someone called it a carrot. I have no idea, but some kind of carrot plant. But anyways, it's got to come out because it's way too big, and it's too big and not very nice for any kind of type of cut flower. But just loving all these colorful zinnias that came up from last year. And I actually saved my seed from last year, and I might plant some new ones. So I planted 2 squash and 2 zucchinis and 2 tomatoes this past year. And these squash are looking really, really good. But I have learned that I should pick them early. So I let them go too big. And my neighbors said they just didn't have a lot of good taste to them. But they look pretty, right? Do you guys have experience with squash? So this is the first year that I've actually got squash on my plants. The year before, I got too much of the fungus on it, and they didn't grow very well. So this is a good harvest right here. Got 3 pretty nice ones. It looks like a jungle in here right now. And these are my cucumbers. When I cut into these, I had a lot of seed, so maybe I'll invest in some plants next year that are seedless. What about you guys? Do you have a cucumber a name brand or variety that you guys like? And I'm not even sure I bought the right type of squash that I usually like to buy in the grocery store. I've got lots of new blooms there, and then you can see these tomatoes. Now these tomatoes are called like 1 in a million or something very similar to that. I'll have to look at the video back when I had planted these, but these are a very good variety of cherry tomatoes, and they are so sweet. I just love them. So look at this bee pollinating this little tomato plant. Pollinate away, my bee. I'm trying to show you the celosia that's in here that reseeded from last year as well. That hot pink celosia back there. And And this plant's growing quite wild too, but it does look really pretty into a cut flower garden. Now this did not come up last year, so I have no idea. I remember planting some kind of queen and lace flowers, but these two go really good together. So that is my planter box that I had. That's a wooden one. And this one is my Savannah planter box. I have this one in the description as well. And I had a video of us putting this together and filling it with dirt. And you can see that my drip is going right now. So that's how I water these containers. And I have in my video on that Savannah one too, how I added drip to that if you're interested as well. That keeps these plants super, super happy, and you don't have to come out and bring the long hose all the way down to the very end of the garden. So my husband here is planting something, so we're going to see what he's spreading. I yelled at him, but he didn't hear me. So here he is spreading the Carbon Pro G. This is a soil amendment. So for the last 2.5 to 3 years, we've been putting some type of soil amendment. Now I got this from Site 1, and this is what the soil amendment looks like. So you're just putting a little bit of this soil amendment on each month. So I've done it for the last 2 to 3 years, and it will turn your soil over. So of course we have that awful clay soil. So that's how come you can see this grass look absolutely gorgeous, because we've turned the soil over. And then here we're going to end this video on showing you this lavender. This is the phenomenal lavender, and I can show you bees every. So I hope this video was helpful and inspiring to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.